SketchUp 2025 is here, and there are a few really exciting updates that are probably going to change the way you use SketchUp in your interior design workflow. So let's talk about those. The first update that I want to talk about is Photoreal Materials. It's probably the biggest update in SketchUp 2025, and it's going to really boost our visuals as interior designers. So right now we're seeing the materials as they were in previous versions, but now we have the ability to go to our styles, edit our faces here, and then click on Photoreal Materials. And so you can see right away, this is shaded with textures and this is photoreal. If you take a look at the faucet and the sink as we orbit in here, you can see that we're getting a nice shine and it's reflecting off of a light source as well, because as I orbit and pan, I am getting that shine that is being affected by the light. If I come down here to my floor, you can see I've got a little bit of grain and bump to it, which is a really cool feature of Photoreal Materials. And this is directly inside of SketchUp. So this is not using a extension, a photorealistic rendering extension. This is inside SketchUp. So these are Photoreal Materials, and we can only use them if the photoreal option is on in the styles and if it has an HDRI environment to bounce off of. And so that's going to be in our environments panel over here. If you're on Mac, you can find this under Window Environments. If you're on a Windows computer, you'll be able to add this to your default tray. SketchUp does give you some environments preloaded. If you go to select, go ahead and click on one of those in your model, and I'm now getting a lot of blue from this blue sky, or a lot of brown from this leafy area outside. So the environments inform how the material will look. So because these HDRIs do affect how our materials look, I went searching for a more neutral file to insert into the environments, and that's what we found here. I found this one at Polyhaven. It's got free HDRIs and textures that have that material mapping to it. So that's a great place to find those among other third-party libraries. We're going to talk more about environments in a moment, but for now, I'm going to minimize this and focus on the materials. Let's take a look at this siding. It's pretty good. It's a seamless texture, but I would like to see what SketchUp can do with its new AI material tool. So I'm going to open my paint bucket or my materials panel and find the material. It's actually here at the end, but if you're having trouble figuring out which swatch goes with the material that you'd like to change, you can tap B for bucket and then Command to sample this, or Alt if you're on a Windows computer. And it will give you, or it should give you, a blue box around the material that you've sampled. If you can't get that to activate, I like to just click on any of them and try it again. And the blue box should bounce to the correct one, which it did in this case. So now I know that this swatch here corresponds with this board and batten material. So to edit this, I can right-click Edit, or I can just double-click on the thumbnail. Now it's appearing as flat because it's just a seamless image. It doesn't have any materiality to it. And I can do a few manual changes, like click metalness and roughness, and you can see that it automatically gives it a pretty big shine here. And that's not the look I'm going for. I don't want it to be so reflective, and it actually still looks pretty flat. It looks flatter than before. If I click normal or ambient occlusion, it's wanting me to upload a map. I can't just simply use the sliders here. I have to have an image map to go over this to correspond with that material. But like I said, I can use the new SketchUp AI tool here, the Material AI tool, and click on these little stars and see what it can do with this material. Now, in some cases, it can take a non-repeatable image that has a seam to it and help us create that repeatable image. In my experience, it's been hit and miss as to what it can do with that, but it's still pretty good, and I think it's just going to get better. Okay, so now it's done processing, you can see that it did change it quite a bit. It looks pretty shiny, pretty metal. And now I have some sliders that I can play with. So the roughness, I think I will slide this up a hair. I don't want it to be too shiny. The metalness is off, and I'm okay with that. My normal map gives me how bumpy things look. So you can see it looks pretty flat with it off. And then if I turn it on, it looks pretty neat. I'm going to go ahead and use the slider here. I don't want it to look too bumpy, too much texture to it. It starts to look pretty fake, pretty weird. So I'm just going to bring that down to about here. And then the ambient occlusion, this material already had a pretty cool look to it as far as where there would be corners. So the ambient occlusion, I don't think it's going to affect this too much, but you can kind of see how it affects it. Whoop, kind of lost it there. How it affects those dark corners. So AI did a pretty good job in this case. It's pretty shiny, and that may just be the location of my light source for this view. So if I don't like seeing that studio light here, but I do want to show it at this angle, I can go back to that environment panel. So let's go ahead and open that up. And then we can change the rotation of that light source so that we can get a better look at this angle. I'm happy with that. I'm going to update my scene because my scene will call back to whatever angle I've chosen. So I can right-click Update. If you decide that you want two angles, I can rotate that some more. And I can add another scene. So right-click Add, and you can see that it locks in that rotation angle of that sky dome. So I have two different options here. So if you zoom in somewhere and let's say we're zooming in on this kitchen and we don't like how shiny it is right here, we can change the angle away from that or just get a slight shine and add a scene, and it will remember the angle of that sky dome. All right, so while we're talking about the environment here, I want to talk about set sun location. And to do that, I'm going to click on our ocean view scene because this one has a nice sunlight coming through with the shadows. So with the sun location turned on, we have the ability to choose the location of the sun in this thumbnail up here. So as I move it, you can see the shadows will move as well. So that's a pretty cool, quick way to set up our shadows without having to use the shadow slider. We can also move the sun up or down or side to side using the sliders below. Now, with this on, you may notice or wonder what happens to the shadow settings panel here. So with the sun location turned on, we lose the ability to change the sliders, the time and the day of the year, which makes sense, right? We're changing the location of the sun here. We can't have both options on. If I turn this off, we now have the ability to change the time of the day and the day of the year. With this on, I do have access to the secondary panel to change the light and the dark sliders here. So we do have control over that. We just don't have control over the sun location itself. Now you're seeing this dome here, and it's cool because we can use different environments in the same file, in the same project. So I have this custom third-party HDRI file here. It's a beach scene because I wanted to be able to see it out the window, but in other views, I didn't want the blues to affect the color of the walls. This is just more of a fun eye candy view of the space. And here is another area that rotating the angle of this is going to be helpful. It is going to change the way we see things and maybe even change the way the light is reflecting off of the surfaces or the colors are reflecting, but that is a fun way to change the scene and the visualization. If you don't want to see this out here, you can turn off Use Environment as Sky Dome, but you can still get the reflection of the sky dome in the materials. So even though it's turned off, we're still going to get the colors of the sky dome. Don't be fooled just by turning this off. If yours is very orange or green or blue, it's still going to make your materials take on that color. It's going to influence the way we see the materials, even if we have this unchecked. Before we move on to the next new feature with SketchUp 2025, I want to say one last thing about the materials. You can find really great materials with texture maps on third-party sites like textures.com, Polyhaven, SketchUp Texture Club, places like that. Great places to get materials. But you can also now get texture mapped materials in the 3D warehouse. And I'm going to look for one to apply to this desktop here. Before I go searching for it, I'm going to double click into the groups wrapper so that I can apply it directly to the faces. Now I can get to textures via the warehouse up here, but I can also go to the warehouse material area here in my materials panel. Click on that 3D warehouse icon and it goes directly to the SketchUp content library materials category. Now I'm looking for wood, so I'll click on SketchUp wood collection, and I think that this wood veneer here is going to work out fine. So I'll click on the download icon. It loads it into my paint bucket and I can click, let's see here, I can click on that front face. And for this one, I'm just going to hold down Shift because I would like to replace all of those previous default with that new material. All right, so now I can hit spacebar, escape out of this, and take a look at my newly applied texture with maps already in there. And I can make adjustments as needed by editing the material here in the material panel. Another new feature in SketchUp 2025 is within the tags panel, and it is called Apply Tags to Scenes. It was often a frustration of SketchUp users that they would add a new tag or add a piece of furniture, put it on a tag, and it's on in all of the scenes. So they would have to go back to each scene and adjust those new tags and those new objects according to the options of the scene and what they want on or off. Now we can kind of bulk update that within the tags and the scenes panel. For example, I have these two buildings, they're placeholders, letting me know where the buildings are next to this beach house, but I don't want them on in every scene. But right now they are on in every scene. So I'm going to add a tag and I'm going to call it, let's see, I'll put it in the first category here. I'm going to call it maybe just neighbors, NEI for now. I'm not actually sure. There we go. Alphabetized, numerical. So I don't want this on in every scene. First, I'm going to go ahead and tag these guys. So this one and this one. And now I can turn that off. I do want it in this patio scene because I want to see where the neighbors are, but I don't really want them in most other views. So I'm going to go to scenes and let's go ahead and select one, maybe our floor plan scene here. You can see that I don't really want them on there. So I'm going to turn them off and then I'm going to bulk update here. So in the floor plan, let's see, ocean view. No, I don't want that on. Let's just go ahead and do up to here. Now we'll leave patio off. Let's see, let's try this one more time. Right up to here. So now with all of these scenes selected, I held down Shift and bulk selected these. I'm going to right click and choose Apply Tags to Scenes. So I'm saying, this tag right here, whether it's on or off, please apply that setting to these scenes. So I can do that. It's going to take a moment to think, but now across all of these scenes here, so we have ocean view, that tag is off in those scenes. Same with the back to front. It's going to be off, front cut. That tag is off. You can see there they are. It's off. So it's just a new way to bulk update just a single tag here without having to worry about what's going on with the other tags. And it's a great new option for when you add in those little bits and pieces after you've already set up your scenes. I have done lots of work to my model. I should probably be saving this throughout. I do have autosave on, but I like to manually save things every once in a while just to make sure any major changes are applied. So I'm going to go to File, Save, or Command Save, Control Save, however you like to save. Now, New feature is this Purge all unused assets. And I really love this because this is going to replace the very tedious path of window, model info, statistics, purge unused. You used to have to go there every single time you wanted to purge your file of unused styles, unused tags, unused objects. It just took a lot to keep our file size nice and tidy and small and get rid of all that stuff we're not using. But now, when we save our file, we get this warning letting us know that it's about to get purged. So I'm going to click yes. I'm happy with that. I did notice on the Windows version of this warning, there was an option to not see the warning again within that panel. That's a nice touch. We can turn this off in SketchUp settings on a Mac. I believe it's under settings. Let's see if I can find it quickly. General, and then uncheck ask to purge all on save if you don't want to see that. But for me, I like seeing it knowing that periodically it's getting rid of that. So I'm happy with that update. I know it's a kind of a little dorky thing to nerd out on, but I just think it's such a good idea. I'm really, really happy that they did that because a lot of people don't know that you have to purge your model to keep the file size down. They think if they delete a material or an object that SketchUp just forgets about it, but it holds on to that information and it will weigh down your file and kind of bulk up those panels with stuff that you don't need to see anymore. So really handy update there. The last feature that I want to talk about that's new with SketchUp 2025 is the rotate tool. If I select an object and then activate the rotate tool with this icon or the letter Q, I now have the ability to access those red plus signs, those red grips that allow us to rotate on center of a bounding box. The reason this is handy is that we used to only be able to access this through the move tool. So M for move. People would often try to move things, but accidentally click on these red plus signs, rotating an object when they didn't intend to, especially if you tend to work on things from far away. Hitting those red plus signs happened often for people as they got used to using these tools, or people who have been using them for a long time and just accidentally hit those red tools. Now we can turn that off with the move tool and just have them on with the rotate tool. So you can hit those red plus signs or just hover over the center point of each bounding box area here, the face of the bounding box. So I can click here, click to start the rotation, and then click to set the rotation. So now with that available, if you don't want your move tool to have those red plus signs, you can go up to your settings. That's under SketchUp settings, or Windows users, that's going to be under Window Preferences. But we're trying to get to this Preferences area. And then under Drawing, you'll want to uncheck Show Move Tool Rotation Grips. So now with that off, if that's what you want, when you hit the Move tool, you will only be able to move it. So these are the only grips that you'll be able to get is those corner grips, or you can cycle through the different grips here, but no more red plus signs. I'm going to leave mine on simply because I teach SketchUp. I want mine to look like the default, but again, it's going to be under Preferences, Drawing, and then Show Move Rotation Grips. So what do you think about the updates included in SketchUp 2025? Let me know in the comments below.